Hey everyone and welcome to Storytime. My name is Jake and today we are going to be looking at the subreddit r/maliciouscompliance. So sit back, relax and enjoy some satisfying stories. You want my empty water bottle because it is over 100 milliliters? So about 2 months ago, I went to Cuba with my mother. It was an all-inclusive trip, so everything was pretty much provided for by Sunwing. Whenever I travel, I like to bring with me this cute 500 milliliter glass water bottle with this rubber pink casing I got whilst I was in China. Normally, this bottle wouldn't be an issue. There would be a few odd times when security at the airport would check it to make sure it was empty because it was clearly over the 100 milliliter maximum. But they would all let us go without a hitch. When we were traveling to Cuba, the bottle was checked and given back to us on our way there. But on the way back is a completely different story. There were tons of people flying out of Varadero, where we were, the same day as us. So there were like 200 people waiting to check in at only 3 check-in counters. When we finally checked in, it had been about 2 hours since we got there. We were pretty tired from standing, so we wanted to get through the gates as fast as we could. So we took the shortest line in security. There were 2 people working at each bag check area. At ours, there was a lady looking through the screen, displaying the X-ray, and a guy in charge of checking suspicious bags. When we put our bags on the conveyor belt, the lady began gesturing to her partner and pointing at her screen. The guy then proceeded to grab my stuff off the belt on the other side and asked us if it was our stuff, to which we replied yes. He carefully shuffled through the bag, but really just went after the water bottle, because that's what I assume the lady pointed at on the screen. The following dialogue is my best recollection. "Is this your water bottle?" "Yes." "Okay, I'm going to confiscate this because it is against the rules to bring this on board." "But it's empty." "Yes, but it is over 100 milliliters, and that is against the rules." Me, confused, but did not want to make a scene and get kicked out. "No, that's for liquids." "No, it's for the size of the bottle, and it's glass." "But we have this bottle that's also glass." This bottle indicates an 80 milliliter bottle of hot sauce we brought. "That is under 100 milliliters, so it's allowed." At this point, I wasn't sure if he didn't know the rules or something, because every time he answered, he sounded very unsure. "Can I see where it states that I cannot bring an empty bottle over 100 milliliters with me?" He grabs a nearby plaque that labels prohibited items and points to a wine bottle. "But that's not allowed because it's alcohol." "No, it's because it's over 100 milliliters glass bottle." His tone at this point indicated that his real intentions were that he wanted my water bottle, because he's really just grabbing arguments out of thin air. Me just trying to test his nerves at this point. So if I had a 100 milliliter glass bottle of alcohol, I could bring it with me? "No, because it's alcohol." "So is that," referring to the plaque. "Do you want to take the cover off the bottle before it is sent to be destroyed?" Handing the bottle back to me for me to remove the casing. Keep in mind, there was some more bantering back and forth, basically saying the same thing over and over again. I was really ticked at this point. I really liked that water bottle, and it was clear that the only reason he was confiscating the bottle was because he or the lady wanted it. So I took the water bottle from his hands. He gave it willingly for me to take the casing off. But since the only problem he seems to suggest is the size of the glass, I can take everything else. So I stared into his eyes as I removed the lid of the bottle and handed the rest back to him. His face instantly became red with anger, and he aggressively threw the rest into the disposal bin. I have no use for the cap or the casing, but he now has no use for the bottle, and that's all that matters. So out of everything, this guy wanted to steal a water bottle. Like, I'm pretty sure you can get them quite cheap. I'm sure there's some expensive ones, but why would you want to steal a water bottle? Can't sit down without a doctor's note? Okay then. At the time, I worked in a cafe set over 3 floors. So my day generally consisted of 10 hours running up and down stairs. I had slipped on some spilt motor oil in the car park on my way home, and my ankle had bent underneath me. I had initially assumed I'd just twisted it, but several hours later it was still throbbing, as well as swelling up so much that it looked like I was hiding a pair of golf balls under my sock, and turning a deep shade of purple. As my next shift started in less than 12 hours, and we were short-staffed as it is, I didn't want to call in sick, but I knew there was no way I'd be able to stand or walk on it for a whole day. I called my manager to explain, to ask if I could A, switch to the register for a few days, which involved much less walking than my regular role, and B, borrow one of the bar stools to sit on behind the counter, so I wasn't putting too much weight on it. I figured this wouldn't be a problem, as we had other staff who could cover the floor, and there's no issues with access around the register that the chair could get in the way of. I was wrong. Manager insisted that he wouldn't sign off on me having a chair without a signed doctor's note verifying my injury, even after I sent him photos of my wrecked ankle. As my GP was already closed, I headed to the 24-hour walk-in clinic. An x-ray and a lot of poking and prodding later, the doctor told me I had to ice it every few hours until the swelling went down, which took almost a week, and keep all weight off it for at least a week, and wear a brace for another 2 weeks after that. When I explained what I did for a living, the doctor presented me with a lovely note explaining that I shouldn't be at work at all for at least 7 days. I wish I could have seen my manager's face when I called to explain that I didn't need the chair after all, as actually I wouldn't be in work for the rest of the week, and most of next week. Doctor's orders. Funnily enough, I was never asked to produce a doctor's note again for the rest of the time I worked there. Edit. You'll be pleased to hear that several years later, my ankle healed with 0 long-term effects, and now I'm in management myself, hopefully treating staff a lot better than I was treated. Also, as so many of you have pointed out, please go to the doctor if you injure yourself, regardless of whether or not a douchebag manager demands it or not. They literally sent a picture of a huge bruised ankle and the guy was still like, no, you need a doctor's note. Like, come on. If you don't like it, then leave. Don't mind if I do. Don't mind if we all do. I worked as a housekeeper at a small local hotel. At the beginning when I started, about 3 years ago, things were pretty peachy. I got above minimum wage and worked in an environment with a more relaxed working pace. We had more time than your average hotel to clean rooms, and it showed in customer satisfaction. We had stellar reviews with customers raving about how there wasn't a speck of dust anywhere, how everything from the lampshades to the bathroom drain was always scrubbed squeaky clean. I loved my job and took pride in it. And when we had extra time, which happened from time to time, we would do some deeper cleaning like scrubbing all the walls inch by inch, disinfecting the whole bathroom, cleaning the blinds, etc. Even though we all had some extra time, we used it to make sure the rooms were always up to a very high standard. As a result of this, we got a reputation of being an affordable but very clean hotel, so our popularity spiked. Even before we got so popular, in our prime we were booked full about 90% of the days. Our boss made a pretty nice amount of money. We don't have a reception, we're self-service. You just get a passcode for your room via text message. So he saved money with that. He drives an expensive car and seems very well off. We were never struggling financially. Then things started changing. We're a very close-knitted team of cleaners who have been in the house for years. A couple of us left at the end of last year. One moved to another state, another became a housewife after having a kid. And we started expecting newcomers to our team. They never came. Our boss claimed that it's hard to find workers for this kind of job. We never had anyone interviewed, and I never saw ads anywhere that we're hiring. So I'm not sure he was even planning on replacing them. So our work pace got tighter. We managed somehow, but there was no longer time for thorough cleaning. Then the boss opened a restaurant so that the guests could have breakfast. Cleaning it daily got added to our workload, and that place is massive. It takes at least 1.5 hours to clean daily. At the same time, he also opened a separate Airbnb style apartment, 3 bedrooms, kitchen, living room and bathroom, for larger groups who wanted to reside together. Cleaning that fell on us as well. So suddenly, we were down 2 people, there were 7 of us initially, and shoved 2 massive new responsibilities. We asked our boss again to hire more people, but he said no, and that we've been having it too easy beforehand. He also refused to add another hour or 2 to our daily working hours, currently 9 AM to 3 PM. We have 6 hours and everything needs to be done at 3 PM sharp, because that's when the new passcodes start working. Understandably, we were stressed out. There was suddenly far too much to do, and our boss also simultaneously expected that we would keep up our usual cleaning standard. But when our time per room plummets from 45 minutes to 25 minutes tops, usually closer to 15, obviously we're not able to clean everything the way we did before. We would get yelled at when we got bad feedback because there wasn't enough time to clean thoroughly enough. Customers who came in after our clean rooms were disappointed and took their business elsewhere. Also, my coworkers started calling in sick because they were burnt out. It was a mess. But our boss maintained the outlook that if he just pushed a massive amount of work on us, we'd somehow magically find an extra pair of hands and get everything done 100%. Last week, we had a meeting with my coworkers. We discussed the current situation, and to my surprise, everyone was considering quitting. Out of loyalty to our long-term employer, the 5 of us agreed to have a meeting with our boss and tried to persuade him to hire more staff, to bring the hotel back to its earlier standard. A couple of days later, we had the said meeting. Our boss was still in denial and said that we just need to up our pace and do things faster. He cited that most hotels give housekeepers about 20 minutes to do everything. We pointed out that it's true, but in that case, he can't expect us to clean better than those hotels. He scoffed and told us, "If you don't like working here, then leave." That was all we needed to hear. That night, we had another meeting amongst us cleaners. We checked our contracts and realized there was no agreed on notice for resignation as we're at will. So, we were all going to take his advice. This morning at 9 AM sharp, the 5 of us paid our boss a visit. The look on his face when we simultaneously slammed down our resignation letters and marched out, leaving no one to clean the whole hotel today, will warm my heart for the rest of my days. He was absolutely stunned. He tried to call us to talk things over. Nuh-uh, we just did what you told us to. Have fun replacing what was a motivated, loyal, and dedicated team of cleaners who made your business bloom. If one of the people out of the 5 of them was like business minded, they should start their own cleaning company, and then they should go back to that guy and then charge him like double the amount or something. Call my mum? Okay. Junior year of high school, I had a real douche of a math teacher, hereafter Mr. K, always picking on students and lived on failing people. I had an A in the class come interim report time, and he had demanded everyone get it signed by their parents and returned. Usually this was reserved for folks with grades C or lower. I didn't bring it home and have it signed. Mr. K spent 20 minutes of class time sending all of us up to call our parents in front of the class who failed to comply. I was last, and all the other students with failing grades were fussing and sucking their teeth. I, however, couldn't wait. She has little patience for BS. When it was my turn, I called my retired Lieutenant Colonel mother, then middle school teacher, in the middle of her robotics class. She was so worried that I was calling because at the time I was having a lot of health issues and had regular standing appointments on the base to get injections every single day. I tell her Mr. K asked me to call because I didn't have my interim signed. Thinking I was failing, she demanded to know my grade. I tell her I have an A in the class. At this point, she politely requests that I hand the phone to Mr. K. He has a smug look and just stares at me, thinking that I just got into trouble. Quickly, he turns around and everyone can hear her barking at him for wasting her time, enacting useless policies, and how dare he waste valuable class time as one teacher to another. He's quietly mumbling, "Yes ma'am, yes ma'am." He hangs up the phone and resumes class. I was never asked to call my parents again in his class. What a guy. He's just like, "Oh, I'm gonna tell these middle school kids who's boss," and then just get shouted at. Hey everyone, I hope you all had a really good day and that you enjoyed that video. If you want to check out some other videos, then click on screen right now or check out the playlist down below. If you enjoyed that video, then please do leave a like. And if you want to submit your own stories, then you can do so by joining the Discord in the top link in the description. But thank you so much for watching and I will see you very soon.